The Galactic Council sat in a circle of light, floating in the heart of the Citadel, surrounded by stars and power as the representatives of 100 alien civilizations debated the fate of one world, Earth. For years, the Council had watched humanity with increasing concern. While most new species joined the Council willingly, offered their knowledge, shared their technology, and bowed to the peaceful unity of the stars, humans had done none of that. They questioned everything, resisted every demand, and laughed at veiled threats. Even when surrounded by powerful fleets and ancient races, they stood firm, refusing to give up their military secrets or accept surveillance over their space programs. Earth's refusal was seen not as bravery, but as arrogance. The Council had allowed it for too long, believing humans would eventually break under pressure. But humans didn't break. They improved. They vanished from diplomatic circles. They stopped sending ambassadors. They went silent. And silence, in a galaxy where words meant peace, was taken as a warning. Behind closed doors, the Council voted. It was unanimous. Earth had become a threat. It was time for a pacification strike, a controlled attack meant to disable their defenses without destroying their planet. The operation was quick. Council ships approached Earth's orbit in stealth mode, launched coordinated strikes on Earth's satellites, and jammed their communications. It was clean, professional, and bloodless. Within minutes, Earth's orbital grid blinked out. Their skies went dark. Their networks collapsed. From orbit, Earth looked like a stunned animal, blinded and quiet. The Council watched the silence proudly. Their job was done. Earth had been humbled. Now the humans would understand who truly ruled the stars. Celebrations began within the Citadel as Council members exchanged smug nods and raised glasses filled with glowing liquids. To them, the mission was a success. But deep under Earth's oceans, far away from satellites and signals, something ancient stirred. Hidden facilities, buried in secret for centuries, powered on. The Aegis Protocol, a final fail-safe created by the old human governments in case of planetary invasion, activated silently. Around the world, black sites received the same message. Phase 1 initiated. These sites, long thought abandoned, came alive. Autonomous systems, buried beneath cities and frozen tundras, began transmitting to each other in coded frequencies. In dark vaults, machines older than most Council civilizations reawakened. These weren't ordinary weapons. They were designed by the greatest human minds for a war that had never come. And now, the moment had arrived. Earth didn't panic. There were no public broadcasts, no angry threats. The people continued with their lives, unaware that far above their heads, the galaxy had just declared them dangerous. The Council waited for a response, but none came. Their spies reported confusion on the surface, but no large-scale retaliation. A week passed, then another. Still, nothing. Some believed Earth was too damaged to respond. Others thought humanity had finally accepted defeat. A few worried something was wrong, too wrong. But those voices were drowned in arrogance. The Council had destroyed Earth's satellites. What could the humans possibly do? What they didn't know was that Earth had never trusted orbit. The real communication networks were buried underground, powered by geothermal energy, and connected to a defense system that had been growing in secret since the first alien contact. The Council had taken out decoys. They had blinded themselves, not Earth. In the third week after the strike, a fleet of Council scouts disappeared near Jupiter. No distress signals, no escape pods, just silence. A probe sent to investigate transmitted one final image before vanishing. An enormous shadow behind the gas giant, shaped like a spearhead, shimmering with cloaking technology beyond Council understanding. The image lasted 3 seconds, then the feed was gone. Alarm bells rang across the Citadel. For the first time, the Council felt fear, not from an enemy, but from the unknown. Earth had not responded with violence. They had not sent demands. They had simply vanished from view, until now. Emergency meetings were called. Council fleets were recalled to core worlds. Borders were locked, but it was already too late. Because Earth hadn't spent its years of isolation and silence, they had been preparing, not for war, but for survival. They knew peace in the galaxy was fragile. They had seen how the Council treated those who refused, and so they built in shadows. They buried secrets. They trained not armies, but minds. Their engineers, scientists, and strategists had designed weapons that didn't destroy. They'd erased. Their ships didn't fire missiles. They moved faster than the enemy could blink, disarming threats before they became battles. Earth had learned not just from itself, but from every alien species they had encountered. They had copied, improved, and evolved. Now, the galaxy was about to meet the real Earth. Not the Earth that smiled in front of Council diplomats, not the Earth that sent artists and negotiators to the stars, but the Earth that had survived thousands of years of war, disaster, and collapse, and had risen stronger every single time. The humans hadn't changed. They had simply waited. And now, with the Council's strike as the final trigger, the waiting was over. Earth's answer was coming, and it would not be in words. For weeks, the galaxy watched Earth in confusion. The Council's strike had been clean, effective, and silent. Earth's satellites had fallen, their outer defenses crippled, and yet there was no response. No military buildup, no retaliation, not even a public statement. This silence, instead of bringing peace, began to disturb the minds of Council leaders. They had expected panic, outrage, or surrender, but what they received was nothing at all. Some believed the humans had been truly defeated, their systems too damaged to reply. Others thought Earth was trying to hide its shame, but those who had studied human history, those who understood their nature, felt something colder rising in the shadows. Earth's silence was not the silence of defeat. It was the kind that came before something terrible, something planned, something patient. On the surface of Earth, life went on as usual. Cities stayed bright. People returned to their daily lives. Governments issued no panic alerts. But beneath the oceans, deep underground, and in places no satellite had ever seen, something far more important was taking shape. Earth's leaders didn't scream. They didn't gather public support. They didn't show anger. They simply activated old codes, buried deep in the systems of Earth's forgotten past. The Aegis Protocol was now in full effect. Dozens of hidden bunkers across the planet synchronized into a global defense network that had remained dormant for centuries, waiting for the exact scenario the Council had unknowingly triggered. Each bunker was a fortress of its own, shielded from detection, powered by ancient fusion cores, and operated by silent, tireless machines. These bunkers weren't preparing for survival. They were preparing for the moment when Earth had to become something else, something unstoppable. There were no orders shouted in fear, no soldiers running through halls. Everything moved with cold, calm precision. Entire fleets of stealth ships began to rise from beneath the sea, their black surfaces coated with smart materials that bent light and sound, making them vanish into space like shadows. These were the ghost fleets, ships built in secret, tested in deep space, never recorded in any database. Each one carried advanced technology that most Council races couldn't even imagine. Systems designed not just to fight, but to control the battlefield without firing a single weapon. In space, beyond the far edge of the solar system, relay stations that Earth had hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids blinked to life. They'd reconnected with AI systems designed for deep space war management. These artificial minds had one task: to analyze the enemy's weaknesses, predict movements, and ensure that when Earth struck back, it would be swift, clean, and total. No emotion, no mistakes, only results. Earth's leaders had not gathered in public chambers or stood in front of cameras. They met in quiet, armored rooms, speaking in brief sentences, knowing that every word would ripple across space. The world didn't need noise. It needed focus. And so the preparations continued, invisible to the rest of the galaxy, while the Council waited in ignorance. The Citadel, at the heart of Council power, remained full of pride and ignorance. They held emergency meetings, but none of them believed Earth could truly strike back. Their advisors insisted that Earth's systems were crippled, their technology outdated. They believed the silence meant surrender. But within the dark corners of the Citadel, among the quiet halls where military observers reviewed ancient footage, there were those who disagreed. A few remembered the Battle of Cirrus, where a small human force held off a much larger alien fleet using tactics that defied logic. Others remembered stories, unconfirmed, but unsettling. The first test of Earth's silence came when a Council probe entered the asteroid belt on a mission to monitor Earth's activity. It sent a single image back, then vanished. No explosion, no wreckage, just silence. The Council blamed a system failure. Then another probe disappeared near Mars. This time, there was no message at all. Still, no one dared to assume the worst. It was easier to believe in technical errors than to admit Earth might be planning something. After all, Earth hadn't even responded to the attack. Why would they waste energy on probes? But back on Earth, every move was being calculated. Each Council ship that came near the solar system was scanned, studied, and allowed to pass, until the pattern was complete. Earth was mapping their enemies, not to fight, but to dominate. It was not rage that guided them. It was discipline. A kind of discipline the Council had never encountered. In the darkness of space, far beyond Pluto, a small ship emerged from a black hole generator. An experimental jump engine Earth had developed in secret. The ship was unmanned, coated in layers of decoys and anti-sensor fields. It moved slowly through Council territory, scanning systems, measuring reaction times, recording everything. No one detected it. Earth was now watching the Council from within. Every signal, every patrol, every weakness, it was all being fed into the Aegis core. The Eye had no desire for war. It had a mission: prevent Earth's destruction by any means necessary. And if that meant ending the enemy's ability to ever strike again, then so be it. Earth would not play the Council's game. They would write their own rules. And so the silence continued, but it was no longer the silence of a planet waiting to be rescued. It was the silence of a hunter preparing its strike. Earth was not acting out of anger. It was acting out of memory. For humans had long known what it felt like to be underestimated, betrayed, and nearly broken. But each time in history, they had returned stronger. The galaxy had made a mistake. It had thought Earth was soft because it smiled, that it was weak because it stood alone. But in truth, Earth had been holding back. The humans never wanted war. But now that war had come to their doorstep, they would answer, not with words, not with warnings, but with something the galaxy had never seen before. And when the storm finally arrived, it would be too late for regrets. The stars were calm, and the Council systems remained quiet, unaware that a storm was already rising in the silence. It began without sound, without warning, and without a single broadcast. Somewhere near the outer edge of Council territory, in a system where patrols had grown lazy and sensors often glitched, an entire space station vanished in less than 6 seconds. It didn't explode. It didn't send a distress signal. One moment it was there, and the next, only dust remained, floating in perfect silence. The Council Command Center received no alarm, only a delayed notice that communications had stopped. They sent a scout ship, then 2, then a cruiser. But nothing returned. The Council debated whether it was a solar flare or a gravitational anomaly, unaware that Earth had just made its move. This was not an act of revenge. It was a message, a cold, precise warning delivered with terrifying skill. The ship responsible for the destruction had no name. It was designed without a crew, controlled by Earth's most advanced war, AI known as Spectre. It had been built not to fight fleets, but to erase them. Its hull was black as the void, absorbing all light. It didn't use traditional engines that could be tracked. Instead, it moved like a shadow, silent and untouchable. The weapon it used was not a missile or a laser. It was a gravitational pulse that bent the very fabric of space around the target, collapsing it in on itself. The Council had no defense for it, because they didn't even know it existed. The first strike had begun, and the galaxy remained clueless. In the days that followed, 3 more outposts went dark. Mining colonies, weapon depots, and listening stations, all erased with no survivors and no warning. Panic began to spread inside council chambers, but still, they could not believe Earth was behind it. Earth was quiet. Earth was broken. Earth had not responded to their attack. But deep down, their fear was growing. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was deadly. Then came the transmission, not from Earth, but from a stolen council frequency. It played only once, broadcasted across a dozen systems, and it was not a threat, not even a declaration. It was a voice, human and calm, saying only 7 words. You struck first. We end it now. That single sentence caused more fear than a fleet of warships ever could. Every council member who heard it knew this was no ordinary retaliation. This was judgment, and Earth had already begun. The council scrambled to respond. Fleets were mobilized. Defenses were raised. Surveillance drones were sent across the edges of known space. But it was too late. Earth was already inside. A supply chain collapsed when transport ships were mysteriously redirected and crashed into each other, their navigation systems hijacked by code that had no origin. Communication satellites began to shut down one by one, their systems filled with ghost signals and false data. And in the heart of Council territory, a secret weapons lab suddenly exploded from within, its own reactors sabotaged by a virus that had been sleeping inside their systems for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. This was no war. This was an execution, slow, silent, and surgical. As the chaos spread, the Council finally accepted what they feared most. Earth had not been silent out of weakness. Earth had been preparing, planning, watching. They had studied every system, every weakness, every assumption the Council had. And when they struck, they did so with precision that felt inhuman. But this was not the work of monsters. It was the work of minds trained by centuries of being underestimated, hunted, and challenged. Humans had learned to survive by becoming unpredictable, by mastering war not through size, but through intelligence. And now, the galaxy was paying the price for ignoring that. Across Earth, the people still lived their lives calmly. No one cheered for the attack. No one celebrated. There were no parades or announcements. Earth didn't need the galaxy to fear them. They only needed to make one thing clear, that no one would ever touch Earth again without consequences. The leadership remained hidden. The Aegis Corps continued to operate without rest, identifying the next targets and executing orders with machine accuracy. Spectre-class ships moved in patterns impossible to predict, attacking fuel stations, disabling orbital relays, and planting devices in Council-controlled moons that would silently erase their data cores. There were no battles, only losses, one after another. And still, no one could stop them. In desperation, the Council finally sent their elite task force, the Red Hand, to trap and destroy whatever was attacking them. Dozens of warships, loaded with the best weapons and fastest engines, moved toward the last known location of the disappearing outposts. They found nothing. No enemy ships, no debris, only silence. But as they waited, scanning the empty space, something strange happened. One by one, their systems began to shut down. Shields dropped. Engines stalled. Communications died. And in the blackness, Earth's message returned, not as a voice, but as a screen filled with every name of the Council officers who had approved the strike on Earth. Each name was marked with a time and a location. Earth wasn't just ending the war. They were hunting the ones who started it. The Red Hand didn't stand a chance. Their ships exploded without warning from the inside out, leaving nothing but silence behind. The galaxy now knew. Earth had returned, not as a victim, but as a force that could not be measured by ships or numbers. They had taken the rules of war and thrown them away. They had written their own strategy, a strategy that no one understood until it was too late. And now, with each passing day, another piece of the Council's empire was falling apart. Supplies stopped moving. Orders were lost. Stations went dark. People began to whisper in fear, not of war, but of the silence that always came before Earth struck again. It was not revenge. It was something colder, something final. Earth had shown mercy by waiting. That mercy had been wasted, and now, with the first strike complete, the galaxy was left to wonder one terrifying question: what comes next? The Council sat in silence, their chambers dim and heavy with fear. It had been weeks since the first outpost was destroyed. One by one, their defenses had fallen, and every attempt to strike back had failed before it even began. The silence that followed each attack was worse than the destruction itself. No declarations, no threats, just silence and vanishing systems. Everyone now knew the truth that no one had dared to speak aloud. This was Earth's doing. The same Earth they had once considered weak, broken, and beneath their notice. But now, the humans had become shadows in the dark, always one step ahead, and always watching. Ships disappeared, fleets malfunctioned, entire networks collapsed, and no one could stop. The screen flickered to life across every command center, every political office, every fleet headquarters. The same video played on a loop, without sound, without music. A black screen turned white, and slowly the symbol of Earth appeared. An old blue sphere surrounded by a ring of satellites, with a single burning star behind it. Then came the image that sent fear into every leader's heart. Footage of the Council's initial attack on Earth, the one they had tried to erase, the one they swore no one had recorded. Cities burning, civilians running, spaceports falling, children crying in smoke, and in the corner of the screen, a line of text appeared. "We remember." That was the first part. The second was worse. It showed names, hundreds of names, council generals, admirals, politicians, commanders, every person involved in the decision to attack Earth. Next to each name was a red or green light. Red meant the person was dead. Green meant they were still alive. And slowly, as the video played, the green lights began to turn red, one by one. In real time, someone was hunting them. And Earth wanted everyone to know it. The Council's panic turned into chaos. Security was doubled. Escape plans were made. And assassins were suspected in every corner. But no one knew how the deaths were happening. Some simply never woke up. Others vanished from inside locked rooms. Ships exploded mid-jump. Medbits malfunctioned during surgery. One ambassador dropped dead in the middle of a live interview. And after every death, the message updated. One more red light. The galaxy watched in horror. The Council tried to shut the signal down, but every time they blocked it, it returned from a new source. It was as if Earth's network had wrapped itself around the entire communication grid. No firewall was strong enough. No jammer lasted long. Earth wasn't just sending a message. It was controlling the very flow of truth. But it wasn't just fear that spread. It was doubt. Across many Council planets, people began to question everything. Why had the Council attacked Earth in the first place? What was so dangerous about humans? Why were the most powerful leaders in the galaxy being hunted, while the people of Earth remained silent? Whispers turned into protests. Protests turned into riots. And some systems even began to contact Earth directly, sending hidden messages begging for peace, for forgiveness, for protection. But Earth never replied. They didn't want negotiation. They didn't want surrender. They wanted justice. The kind of justice that came after silence. The kind that couldn't be bought with words or deals. In a distant part of the galaxy, Far from council control, a small group of surviving humans watched the chaos unfold from a hidden base on a frozen moon. They had lived through the first attack, had lost everything, and now they were the eyes and ears of the Aegis Corps. Among them was a woman named Kira Voss, a former diplomat who had once begged the council to leave Earth alone. She had failed. Now she sat in silence as the message played again, this time on a private screen. She didn't smile. She didn't feel joy. Just sadness. They still don't understand, she whispered to the AI beside her. They think this is about revenge. But this is about memory. The AI, a silent drone shaped like a sphere, responded in a cold voice. They forgot the value of human life. Earth is only helping them remember. Somewhere deep in Earth's rebuilt command complex, located underground beneath layers of reinforced steel and quantum encryption, the Aegis Corps continued its work. The message had served its purpose. It had shaken the galaxy. Now it was time for the next phase. But even the humans knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. Eventually, the Council, or what remained of it, would try to fight back. But Earth didn't fear war. They had mastered something far more powerful: information. They knew who to target, when to strike, and how to disappear before anyone could react. It wasn't about ships anymore. It was about minds, about control, and about truth. Back in the council chambers, the surviving leaders held an emergency meeting. They were terrified, angry. Some demanded retaliation. Others begged to open peace talks. But none of them noticed that their systems were already compromised. As they argued, their private communications were being recorded, their escape routes logged. And somewhere inside the room, a small black insect-like drone, no larger than a coin, sat in the corner, watching, listening, waiting. Earth had sent more than a message. It had sent eyes. The next day, the message changed. The screen now showed a single line. This ends when you are all gone. No threats, no conditions, just the promise of a clean ending. One by one, the lights continued turning red. For years, the galaxy had looked down on Earth, considering humans as nothing more than noisy newcomers who barely understood the rules of space. The Galactic Council, filled with ancient and powerful species, had mocked Earth's chaotic politics, unpredictable behavior, and strange emotions. They believed humanity was too unstable to survive among the stars. But all of that changed the moment Earth was attacked. At first, the Council believed it would be quick. Humans would scream, cry, beg, and surrender. But what happened instead shook the foundations of the galaxy. Humanity did not cry out. It did not beg. It vanished. Earth went silent. Its ships disappeared from known charts, and its ambassadors withdrew from every outpost. For a while, the Council thought it was over, that humans had accepted defeat in silence. But the silence was only the beginning. Slowly, strange things began to happen. Small Council fleets went missing in systems they had controlled for centuries, and deep space mining stations were found destroyed without signs of battle. No alarms, no survivors, only wreckage and eerie silence. Some believed it was pirates. Others thought it was a new enemy species. But then came the moment that changed everything. A massive council fleet was stationed near the edge of human space, set to strike what they believed was Earth's last hidden colony. The fleet never returned. Instead, a single ship appeared above the council's homeworld. It wasn't a warship, it was a probe. And it broadcasted a message in every council language. You came to destroy our home. Now we know yours. The galaxy froze. Suddenly, the fear they had tried to plant in humans was blooming in their own hearts. But humans didn't begin a campaign of terror. They began a campaign of precision. Every corrupt official, every warlord, every general who had voted for the attack on Earth started disappearing. No ships, no weapons, just vanishing, one by one, day by day. And behind each disappearance was a small calling card, the symbol of Earth, scorched into metal or painted in blood-red light. The council grew terrified, not because of the losses, but because they had no idea how it was happening. And the public, once fed lies about human weakness, began to question everything. Stories began to spread of humans saving colonies from pirates, of human medics arriving after disasters when the council refused help, of engineers repairing failing life support systems on planets where the council had turned its back. The people of the galaxy started to see a different side of humanity, a side the council had hidden, a side that did not conquer for greed, but protected with silent strength. Leaders of smaller worlds began sending messages to Earth, not in fear, but in admiration. They had seen what humans did to those who abused power, and now they hoped humans might protect them too. But Earth did not answer. It watched, it waited, and only acted when justice demanded it. One day, the last council leader who had signed the attack order was found in his escape vessel, floating just outside the orbit of his own home planet. He wasn't dead, but a message was carved into the wall of the ship in human English. Now you know fear. Now you understand. That was the final move. The galaxy changed overnight. The council was dissolved. A new union of free planets was formed. And though Earth never asked for leadership, it was given a seat of honor, a seat no one dared to challenge. Humans had earned it, not through power, but through discipline, precision, and a code of silent justice that could not be bought or stopped. The galaxy, once arrogant and proud, now looked at Earth with something they never imagined they would feel: respect. And not just any respect, a new kind, a deeper one. The kind born not from fear of destruction, but from understanding of strength. The kind that made even the most powerful species pause before speaking against a human. The kind that changed how war and peace were understood forever. Earth had not demanded this respect. It had earned it, in silence, in shadow, and with the steady hand of those who remember pain and never allow it again. And from that day forward, whenever a new species joined the stars, they were told a simple warning: do not make Earth your enemy, for they do not shout, they do not threaten, they do not forget.